And obviously, it's just really private, and I just don't want this to get out right now.
2013 was not a good year for Khloe Kardashian. And when her therapist betrayed her, it only made things so much worse. In an interview with Bustle, Khloe revealed that she completely lost faith in therapy after her therapist did something unforgivable. Now, when it comes to the Kardashians, it's pretty common for fans not to agree with what they're saying or doing. In this particular case, however, practically everyone was on board with Khloe. So what exactly happened? Well, Khloe revealed that while she was in the middle of divorcing her husband, Lamar Odom, back in 2013, she was really leaning heavily on her therapist. It was a terrible time for her. Not only was her marriage breaking apart, but she was doing everything publicly too. The general public was really aware of her life, and she probably felt like everyone was judging her because of her failed marriage. With all that pressure on her, plus the added pressure of looking perfect, therapy was something she really needed. Now, in case you're not aware, therapists are supposed to listen and keep everything you tell them a secret. They may be able to allude to certain things about their patients, but they are not allowed to spill the beans on what someone has said to them. It's what allows trust to build between a patient and their therapist. That was the belief that Khloe had when she started talking to her therapist. However, this particular therapist must have skipped this particular lesson at therapy school, or they just saw a golden opportunity and decided to cash in. Khloe shared some really personal stuff with her therapist during one particular session. The next day, that story and those details were suddenly plastered all over a tabloid. It was clear to her immediately that her therapist had sold her story to the paparazzi. Khloe felt so betrayed, and understandably so. Even her fans came together to bash the therapist, saying that they should have their license revoked. If people can't trust their therapist, then the whole industry will collapse. It's entirely built on trust. There's no doubt that the therapist got a juicy story and knew that they could get a lot of money by sharing it exclusively with the highest bidder. The experience turned Khloe off from therapy entirely. She decided to express her feelings in two different ways instead. The first was journaling. In her interview, Khloe said that she was a big writer. She loved writing in her journal, although sometimes she ripped pages from it and crumbled it away. When her thoughts became negative, she typically got whatever was in her head out on paper and then destroyed the paper to get rid of the bad thoughts. That helped somewhat, but she needed something physical too. So she started to go to the gym. Remember when Khloe was a little bit overweight and was really owning it? That all came to an end when she started to rely on the gym as her new form of therapy. Khloe discovered that she really liked the challenge that the gym offered, so she started working out almost religiously. Her body completely transformed in the process. Khloe said that this was a really odd time for her though. Back when she was a little overweight, she really loved her body, but she definitely had people who were fat shaming her. Then after she got fit, she suddenly had people telling her that she was fake and that they couldn't believe that she had fallen to society's self-enforced standards of beauty. She couldn't understand what people wanted from her. If she was overweight, people weren't happy with her. And if she was fit, people were unhappy with her. She realized that she was clearly never going to make anyone happy. So she focused on doing what made her happy, which was working out and keeping herself fit. Now, working out at the gym was good therapy for a while, but she was still really struggling with her mental health. It took about a decade before Khloe felt like she was open to trying out therapy again. That's just how deep the betrayal had cut her. Her sister Kim had constantly been pushing her to go back to therapy. She believed that Khloe really needed it. Things finally came to a head when Khloe started to get really dark with her thoughts. She blamed the pandemic for being the catalyst. The pandemic definitely affected a lot of people differently, and it still impacts many to this day. There are some out there who still feel like it's 2020 or even 2019, as if time became frozen during the pandemic. For Khloe, she said that because of the lockdowns and having to stay home, she didn't have the usual distractions of life to keep the negative thoughts from filling her head. Normally, she'd go out drinking with girlfriends or just have a good time out of the house. With the lockdown, she suddenly found herself trapped at home with nothing but her thoughts to keep her company. She said that at some point during the pandemic, she started really being mean to herself. She wasn't even sure why. Her thoughts just became so negative, and she was really harsh on herself. So she became a sort of recluse for a few years after the pandemic. In order to get out of her own head, Khloe decided to finally give therapy a try again. Kim suggested going to her own therapist since she had helped her a lot, especially after experiencing trauma from being robbed in Paris back in 2016. Khloe agreed, and something amazing happened. She and the therapist actually clicked. Even more importantly, she didn't wake up the next day to find intimate details of her private life plastered all over the tabloids. Her faith and trust in therapy had been restored. Now, that said, her therapist definitely made her aware that she was not doing amazing with her mental health. In fact, Khloe's mental health was so bad that her therapist suggested that she come in 3 times a week. They needed to do a massive amount of work to get her in a good place again. Since that meeting, however, Khloe has been going to therapy for a year, and it's been perfect. She still goes to the gym to work out her anger and stress, but she also reinforces it with therapy. There was a third factor that Khloe said really helped her get out of her own head: her siblings. She explained that they all came together to support her, and that Kim, especially, had been really holding her hand and being this light at the end of a dark tunnel for her. Having her siblings around to support her was one of the main reasons why she wanted to have 2 children. After she had True, she knew she needed to give her a sibling because, as morbid as it may be, she knew that she wouldn't always be around for her. Khloe knows from personal experience what it's like to have a parent who suddenly disappears. Her dad, Robert Kardashian, passed away from cancer when she was younger. The grief she experienced was something her mother just couldn't quite understand. It was a different grief from what her mom was experiencing. The good news was that she had her other siblings to rely on. They were all going through the same thing, so when she became a parent too, she really wanted to make sure that her kids had the same sort of support. They'd always have each other even if she wasn't around. Now, even though Khloe wants to make sure her kids have a lot of support, that doesn't mean that she's looking for a specific type of support herself. She shares her kids with Tristan Thompson, but they broke up ages ago. Since then, she hasn't really felt the need to enter the dating world. And a part of the reason why might surprise you. Khloe claimed that the actual process of dating is so broken now, it's especially hard for her because there aren't many places she can go where the paparazzi don't follow. So she can't go out and have dinner with someone because they're always around and ruining the date. She also can't go to her date's house because she's worried they'll end her life. Inviting them to her house is also out of the question because she has kids there. She's absolutely right on that last part too. Aside from that, she's also just really enjoying her single life. It's allowed her to focus on her kids and her business ventures, which is amazing to see. But what do you guys think about all this? What do you think about the therapist who betrayed her trust? Would you have still tried therapy with a different therapist or given up on it like Khloe did for a while? Let me know in the comments below.